The Saturday morning sun beamed through the clouds as two 16-year-old twin brothers, Jordan and Andre, stepped off the bus at the corner of Highland Avenue. They had been planning this visit for weeks, saving every article and video about the new sports car models that had just arrived at Precision Motors. "You think they'll let us sit in one?" Andre asked, adjusting his glasses. Unlike his brother, he knew every technical specification by heart, from horsepower to torque ratings. Jordan shrugged, his fingers tapping nervously against his thigh. "Why not? We're not touching anything without permission. We just want to look." The twins had grown up surrounded by cars. Their grandfather had been a mechanic who taught them to change oil before they could ride bikes without training wheels. Their bedroom walls were plastered with posters of dream machines they hoped to own someday. This shared passion had carried them through the tough years after their mom got sick, and their dad had to work longer hours. "Remember what Dad said?" Jordan reminded his brother as they approached the gleaming glass building. "We're just looking today. No talking about prices or test drives." What the boys didn't mention to each other was their shared hope that someday they might work at a place like this. Andre had already decided he wanted to study automotive engineering, while Jordan was interested in business and marketing. Car dealership combined both their interests perfectly. As they pushed through the heavy glass doors into the air-conditioned showroom, both boys fell silent. The space was huge, bigger than their school gymnasium, with polished marble floors that reflected the overhead lights. Cars in every color gleamed under strategic spotlights, their paint jobs so perfect they looked wet. "Whoa," whispered Andre, stopping in his tracks. "Is that the new GT 5000? Jordan nodded, unable to speak. The car in question sat on a slowly rotating platform in the center of the room, its midnight blue exterior catching the light as it turned. It was the car they'd read about for months, the one automotive magazines had called revolutionary and game-changing. A few other customers wandered the showroom, most of them older couples or businessmen in suits. A woman in a sharp gray pantsuit was showing a red convertible to an older gentleman. In another corner, a family with young children climbed in and out of a luxury SUV while a salesman stood by, smiling patiently. "Let's just walk around first," Jordan suggested, noticing how their sneakers squeaked against the shiny floor. He suddenly felt aware of his faded jeans and the small tear in the sleeve of his hoodie where it had caught on a fence last week. Andre was already moving toward the GT 5000, his eyes wide with wonder. "They've upgraded the headlights from last year's model," he commented, circling the vehicle carefully, hands clasped behind his back to resist the temptation to touch. "And look at how they've reshaped the side panels for better aerodynamics." Jordan hung back slightly, taking in the entire showroom. He noticed the security cameras in the corners, the way the salespeople moved between customers, and how a man in a darker suit watched everyone from behind a glass office wall. Jordan had always been observant that way, noticing things his brother missed while Andre focused on details. For 10 minutes, the boys moved quietly through the showroom, stopping at each vehicle, discussing features in hushed tones, careful not to disturb anyone. They weren't the only people just looking. An elderly couple was doing the same thing, picking up brochures and whispering to each other. "Can you imagine driving this to school?" Andre said as they approached a silver sports coupe. "Coach, Wilson would probably ask for a ride." Jordan laughed. "Mom would never let us drive something like this until we're 30. She still thinks that go-kart we rode at Uncle Ray's was too fast." They stood before the silver car, admiring its sleek lines and imagining themselves behind the wheel. Jordan noticed a salesman glance their way several times but returned to his conversation with another customer. Another employee, a younger woman arranging brochures at a counter, smiled briefly at them before continuing her work. Andre reached for a brochure on a nearby stand. "Maybe we can take one home to show Dad. He'd get a kick out of the engine specs on these new models." That's when they heard footsteps approaching quickly from behind. Before either boy could turn around, a sharp voice cut through their conversation, "I help you boys find the exit?" The man who stood before them was tall with thinning hair and a tight smile that didn't reach his eyes. His name tag read, Richard Harmon, Sales Manager. His arms were crossed over his chest and his foot tapped impatiently against the floor. "Oh, we're just looking at the new models," Jordan explained, straightening his posture. "We won't touch anything, sir." The man's eyebrow raised slightly. "This isn't a museum or a playground. These are high-end vehicles for serious buyers." His gaze swept over their clothes, lingering on Andre's worn sneakers and Jordan's faded hoodie. "I'm afraid I'll have to ask you to leave. We can't have teenagers hanging around disturbing our customers." Andre's face flushed red. "But we're not disturbing anyone. We're interested in cars. I've read everything about these models." "Listen," the manager cut him off, lowering his voice but making it sharper somehow. "We both know you can't afford anything here. This isn't a hangout spot for kids from your neighborhood." Jordan felt his brother stiffen beside him. He quickly put a hand on Andre's arm, feeling the tension in his muscles. Other customers had begun to glance their way, and the elderly couple who had also been just browsing suddenly became very interested in a car across the room. "We understand, sir," Jordan said quietly, trying to keep his voice steady despite the knot forming in his throat. "We'll leave now." The manager nodded curtly. "Frank," he called, and a security guard who had been standing near the entrance moved toward them. "Please escort these two out. Make sure they don't touch anything on the way." The security guard, a heavy-set man with kind eyes that contradicted his stern expression, approached them. "Come on, guys," he said, his voice softer than the manager's, but still firm. "This way." As they turned to leave, Jordan noticed that the young woman at the brochure counter was watching with a frown on her face. She looked like she wanted to say something but then glanced at the manager and returned to her task. The walk to the exit felt endless. Every step echoed on the marble floor, and Jordan could feel eyes following them. The security guard kept a respectful distance, not touching them but clearly herding them toward the door. "This is messed up," Andre whispered, his voice tight with humiliation. "We weren't doing anything wrong." "I know," Jordan whispered back. "Just keep walking, don't make it worse." As they reached the glass doors, the security guard stepped forward to push one open. Before they stepped through, he leaned closer and murmured, "Sorry about that, boys. Some people here are..." He glanced over his shoulder at the manager, who was now speaking to another employee. "Well, just sorry you didn't get to see what you came for." Outside, the sunshine that had seemed so bright earlier now felt harsh and exposing. They stood on the sidewalk, the glass doors closing behind them with a soft hiss, cutting off the cool air from inside. "Well, that was fun," Andre said bitterly, kicking at a pebble on the sidewalk. "Should we catch the bus home or just walk?" Jordan looked back at the dealership where he could see the manager through the glass, now smiling broadly at a couple in expensive-looking clothes. "Let's walk. I need to cool off before we get home." They started down the sidewalk, neither speaking, for several minutes. Cars rushed past on the street, some of them models they'd just been admiring inside. Each one now seemed to represent something just out of reach. "You know what the worst part is?" Andre finally said as they waited for a light to change at an intersection. "He didn't even give us a chance. One look at us, and he decided." Jordan nodded, his hands deep in his pockets. "I know, but someday we'll walk into a place like that and no one will dare ask us to leave." "You think so?" Andre asked, his voice smaller than usual. "I know so," Jordan replied, bumping his shoulder against his brother's. "And when that happens, we'll remember today." They crossed the street and continued their long walk home, the excitement that had carried them to the dealership now replaced with a heaviness that made their steps slower. Neither wanted to talk about what they would tell their parents. Their father worked so hard to give them opportunities, to make sure they could dream big. How could they tell him that sometimes those dreams ran into walls they couldn't climb? As they turned onto their street, Andre broke the silence. "You know what? I'm still going to be a car engineer someday, and I'll design cars so amazing that even jerks like that manager will want one." Jordan smiled for the first time since they'd left the dealership. "And I'll sell them, but to nice people only." The twins laughed, a small moment of lightness returning. They didn't know yet that this humiliating morning would set in motion events that would change not just their lives, but the lives of everyone at Precision Motors. They didn't know that their father, quiet and hard-working as he was, had resources and connections they couldn't imagine. They didn't know that by this time tomorrow, the manager who had dismissed them would be regretting his actions more than any mistake he'd ever made. All they knew as they walked up the driveway to their modest two-story home was that they had each other's backs, just as they always had. And for now, that was enough. The twins reached home just before noon, both quiet as they pushed through the front door. The house smelled like their grandmother's special Saturday stew, the rich aroma of herbs and spices filling every room. Normally, this would have sent them racing to the kitchen, but today they moved slowly, their earlier excitement completely deflated. "Is that you boys?" their grandmother called from the kitchen. "You're back earlier than I expected." Jordan glanced at Andre, a silent question passing between them. Should they tell the truth? Their grandmother, a retired high school principal with sharp eyes that missed nothing, appeared in the doorway wiping her hands on a kitchen towel. "What happened?" she asked immediately, her smile fading as she took in their expressions. "You two look like someone just canceled Christmas." Andre shrugged, dropping his backpack on the floor. "Nothing. The dealership wasn't that interesting." Their grandmother's eyes narrowed slightly. In 40 years of working with teenagers, she had developed a finely tuned radar for half-truths. "Try again," she said, crossing her arms. Jordan sighed. Unlike his brother, he had never been good at hiding things from their grandmother. "They asked us to leave, said it wasn't a place for kids to hang out." "Asked you to leave?" Their grandmother's voice sharpened. "What exactly happened?" For the next few minutes, the boys took turns explaining their brief visit to Precision Motors, how they had been careful not to touch anything, how the manager had singled them out while ignoring other browsers, and how they had been escorted out by security. Their grandmother listened without interrupting, but the twins could see the anger building in her eyes, a slow burn that they recognized from the rare occasions when someone crossed a line with her family. "Your father needs to hear about this," she finally said, pulling her cell phone from her pocket. "No, Grandma, please," Jordan said quickly. "Dad's busy with that big project. He doesn't need to worry about this." "Yeah," Andre added. "It's not a big deal. We're fine." Their grandmother gave them a look that had silenced rowdy classrooms for decades. "This is exactly the kind of thing your father would want to know about. Now go wash up for lunch. Your dad will be home in 20 minutes. The twins exchanged worried glances but knew better than to argue further. As they headed upstairs, they could hear their grandmother's voice low and controlled but with an edge of steel as she spoke to their father on the phone. 25 minutes later, they heard the front door open and their father's voice greeting their grandmother. The twins sat on Jordan's bed, a car magazine open between them, though neither had actually been reading it. "Boys," their father called up the stairs. "Come down, please." They found their father in the living room, still dressed in the casual business attire he wore for weekend work meetings, dark jeans and a light blue button-up shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows. Raymond Taylor was not a physically imposing man. At 5'10", he was only a few inches taller than his sons. But he carried himself with a quiet confidence that made people take notice when he entered a room. What most people in their neighborhood didn't know was that Raymond Taylor was one of the most successful tech entrepreneurs in the country. 20 years ago, he had created a software platform that revolutionized supply chain management. 10 years later, he had expanded into renewable energy technology. Now, his business empire employed thousands across 3 continents. But the family kept a low profile. They lived in a comfortable but not extravagant house in a middle-class neighborhood. The boys attended the local public school. Raymond drove a 5-year-old sedan. He had learned early in his career that anonymity had its advantages, both in business and in measuring people's true character. "Sit down," he said, gesturing to the couch. His voice wasn't angry, but it had the serious tone that the twins knew meant important business was about to be discussed. "Grandma told me what happened at the dealership," he began once they were seated. "I want to hear it from you two, from the beginning." For the second time that day, the twins recounted their experience. Their father listened carefully, occasionally asking for clarification but mostly just taking in every detail. His expression remained neutral, but those who knew him well might have noticed the slight tightening around his eyes, the way his fingers tapped a precise rhythm against his knee, signs that Raymond Taylor was not merely upset but calculating. When they finished, their father was quiet for a moment. Then he asked, "How did it make you feel?" The question caught them off guard. They had expected questions about what exactly the manager had said, or whether they had perhaps done something to provoke the situation. Embarrassed, Andre admitted, after a moment. Like we'd done something wrong even though we hadn't. Angry, Jordan added. But also, he hesitated, searching for the right word. Small, like we didn't matter. Their father nodded slowly, taking in their words. And what do you think should happen now? The twins exchanged surprised glances. Adults usually didn't ask for their opinion on how to handle situations like this. Nothing, really, Jordan said with a shrug that didn't quite convey the casualness he was aiming for. It's not like it's the first time something like this has happened. Their father's expression darkened slightly at this, but he kept his voice level. That doesn't make it right. Andre, what do you think? Andre thought for a moment. I don't want anyone to get fired or anything, but I wish they knew. They were wrong. About us, I mean. That we weren't just some kids looking to cause trouble. Raymond nodded again, seemingly satisfied with their answers. I understand. Thank you for being honest with me. He stood up, signaling the end of the conversation. I need to make a few phone calls. We'll talk more at dinner. The twins watched their father walk to his home office, closing the door behind him. Through the rest of the afternoon, they could hear his voice, never raised but intense, as he made call after call. What do you think he's going to do? Andre asked as they helped their grandmother set the table for dinner. Jordan shrugged. I don't know, but Dad doesn't do things halfway. Their grandmother, overhearing this, smiled slightly as she placed a bowl of mashed potatoes on the table. Your father has always believed that respect isn't asked for, it's commanded. And not through fear or throwing his weight around, but through actions that can't be ignored. At dinner, their father seemed more relaxed, asking about school projects and upcoming basketball games as if the morning's incident had been forgotten. It was only as they were clearing the dishes that he brought it up again. I've been thinking about what happened today, he said, helping his mother load the dishwasher, and I've decided we should pay another visit to Precision Motors. The twins froze, Jordan with a half-wiped plate in his hand, Andre with the refrigerator door open. All of us? Andre asked cautiously. Their father nodded. All of us. Tomorrow. Morning. But why? Jordan asked. We don't even want to go back there. Raymond smiled, a hint of something the boys couldn't quite identify playing at the corners of his mouth. Because sometimes, the best response to disrespect isn't to walk away. It's to walk back in, on your own terms. He wouldn't say more about his plans despite their questions. After dinner, he returned to his office for more phone calls. Later, the twins heard him talking with their grandmother in the kitchen, their voices too low to make out the words, but the occasional chuckle from their grandmother, suggesting she approved of whatever he was planning. That night, as they got ready for bed, the twins debated what their father might be up to. Maybe he's going to buy out the dealership and fire that manager, Andre suggested as he tossed a basketball from hand to hand. Jordan rolled his eyes. That's a bit extreme even for Dad. I don't know, Andre said thoughtfully. Remember when that teacher told me I wasn't math material in 8th grade? Dad didn't make a scene or yell at anyone. He just quietly funded that robotics lab and made sure I got into the advanced program. Jordan nodded, remembering. Their father's approach to problems had always been strategic rather than confrontational. He didn't raise his voice or make threats. He simply found leverage and applied it precisely where it would have the most impact. Whatever he's planning, Jordan said as he turned off the light. I have a feeling tomorrow is going to be interesting. As the house grew quiet, Raymond Taylor sat in his office, the light of his computer screen illuminating his face as he reviewed the final details of his plan. On the screen was an email confirming his company's interest in purchasing a fleet of vehicles, an order worth several $1,000,000. Another tab showed the social media profiles of Precision Motors, where customer reviews painted a picture of a business that prided itself on exclusivity. Next to his computer sat his phone, displaying a text message he had just received. Everything is arranged for 10 a.m. Both vehicles confirmed. Raymond smiled as he shut down his computer. Tomorrow would indeed be interesting. Not just for his sons, but for everyone at Precision Motors. Sometimes the most powerful lessons were delivered, without a single harsh word, but with a quietness that couldn't be ignored. And Raymond Taylor had always been a very, very good teacher. Sunday morning arrived with clear skies and a warm breeze that hinted at the approaching summer. The Taylor household was unusually active for 8:30 a.m. on a weekend. Their grandmother had prepared a hearty breakfast, insisting everyone needed proper fuel for the day ahead. Their father, typically in casual clothes on weekends, emerged from his bedroom in a tailored charcoal suit that the twins rarely saw him wear outside of special business meetings. "Are we going to church?" Andre asked, confused by his father's formal attire. Raymond straightened his deep blue tie in the hallway mirror. "Not today, but I still believe in Sunday lessons," he replied with a slight smile. "You two should wear something nice, nothing too formal, just presentable." The twins exchanged looks but followed their father's instructions. 20 minutes later, they came downstairs in their best jeans and button-up shirts. "No tie?" their grandmother asked with a raised eyebrow. "Grandma, we're going to a car dealership, not a wedding," Jordan protested. She chuckled, adjusting Jordan's collar. "You never know when making a good impression might matter." Their father checked his watch, a simple but elegant timepiece that had been a gift from his late wife. "We should head out soon. We have a stop to make before the dealership, as is." They prepared to leave. Raymond pulled his sons aside. "I want you both to understand something. What happens today isn't about revenge or making people feel small, the way they made you feel." His voice was quiet but firm. "It's about correcting a wrong and teaching a lesson that needs to be learned." The twins nodded, still uncertain about what exactly their father had planned. Their grandmother hugged each of them at the door. "Remember to stand tall," she told them. "You are your father's sons and your mother's too. Never forget that." Instead of heading to his usual parking spot where his sensible sedan waited, Raymond led his sons down the block. "We're not taking my car today," he explained. Just as they reached the corner, a sleek black SUV with tinted windows pulled up beside them. The driver's window lowered to reveal a friendly face the boys recognized, Mr. Chen, who ran their father's security team for major business events. "Good morning, sir." Mr. Chen greeted them with a nod. "Everything is arranged as requested." "Thank you, David," Raymond replied, opening the rear door for his sons. "Boys, get in. We have a quick stop to make." The interior of the SUV was luxurious, but understated. Black leather seats, climate control, and a privacy screen that separated them from the driver. As they pulled away from their neighborhood, the twins bombarded their father with questions. "Where are we going first? What's arranged? Are we really going back to that dealership? What are you planning, Dad?" Raymond held up a hand, silencing the flurry of questions. "Patience. You'll understand everything soon enough. For now, just trust me." The SUV turned onto the highway, heading downtown. After 15 minutes, they pulled into the parking lot of a glass-fronted building with Taylor Innovation Partners displayed discreetly by the entrance. "Your office?" Jordan asked, surprised. Their father rarely brought them to his company. "Headquarters on weekends. I need to pick up a few people," Raymond explained as they followed him into the building. The security guard at the desk greeted Raymond warmly, not at all surprised to see him on a Sunday morning. "They're waiting in the conference room, sir." Upstairs, the twins were surprised to find 4 people sitting around the conference table, all in business attire despite the weekend. They recognized Mr. Washington, their father's chief legal counsel, Ms. Rodriguez, the head of public relations, and Mr. Patel, who handled major corporate acquisitions. The 4th person, a woman with short gray hair and an air of authority, was unfamiliar to them. "Boys, this is Dr. Winters," their father introduced her. "She's a consultant who specializes in corporate training and workplace culture." The twins shook hands with everyone, still confused about why these important people were gathered on a Sunday morning. "I've briefed everyone on yesterday's incident," Raymond told his sons. "They'll be accompanying us to Precision Motors." Andre shot his brother a concerned look. "Dad, you're not going to sue them or something, are you? We don't want to cause a huge scene." Mr. Washington chuckled. "No lawsuits today, I promise. Though I must say what happened would make for an interesting case." "We're not going to cause a scene," Raymond assured them, "but we are going to make an impression. Now shall we?" Instead of returning to the SUV, they took the elevator to the underground parking garage. As the doors opened, the twins' jaws dropped simultaneously. There, waiting in perfect gleaming alignment, were two identical black stretch limousines. "Are those for us?" Jordan asked, unable to keep the awe from his voice. Raymond nodded. "I thought they might make a statement. And sometimes in business and in life, the right statement at the right moment can be very effective." The group split between the two vehicles. Raymond, the twins, and Mr. Washington took the first limousine while the others took the second. As they settled into the butter-soft leather seats, Andre whispered to his brother, "This is crazy. Everyone at the dealership is going to freak out." "That's kind of the point, I think," Jordan whispered back. Their father overheard and leaned forward. "This isn't about showing off or embarrassing anyone. It's about challenging assumptions. Yesterday, someone looked at you and decided who you were and what you were worth based on nothing but appearance. Today, we're going to help them recognize that error." As the limousines glided through the Sunday morning traffic, Mr. Washington briefed them on what would happen. "Your father has been interested in purchasing a fleet of vehicles for company executives," he explained. "Precision Motors was on our short list of potential suppliers, a contract worth approximately $7 million. The twins' eyes widened. "Was?" Jordan caught the past tense. Mr. Washington nodded. "Given yesterday's events, we've decided to take our business elsewhere. But first, we believe the dealership deserves to understand exactly what their actions cost them." "But that's not all," Raymond added. "Dr. Winters specializes in helping companies recognize and address bias in customer service. She'll be offering her services to Precision Motors at my expense." Andre looked confused. "You're going to pay for them to get training? After how they treated us?" Raymond's expression softened. "What would punishing them accomplish? A manager might get fired. People might lose their jobs, but would the underlying problem be solved? No. Real change comes from education and understanding, not from punishment." The limousines turned onto the main boulevard where Precision Motors was located. Even from a distance, the dealership's glass and steel structure gleamed in the morning. "Son, we're almost there," Raymond said, straightening his tie. "Remember what I told you, this isn't about revenge, it's about dignity, respect, and creating change." As they approached the dealership, Raymond's phone buzzed with a text message. He glanced at it and smiled slightly. "Perfect timing. The regional director for Precision Motors has just arrived at the dealership. Apparently, he received an interesting call last night from a board member." Jordan caught on first. "You know someone on their board?" "Let's just say I have connections in the automotive industry," Raymond replied. "Now, when we arrive, I want you two to walk in with your heads high. Don't say anything about yesterday unless you're directly asked. Let me handle the conversation." The limousines pulled up directly in front of the main entrance, one behind the other. Through the tinted windows, they could see people inside the dealership turning to look, curiosity evident on their faces. "Ready?" Raymond asked his sons. The twins nodded, suddenly nervous but also excited to see what would unfold. The limousine doors opened simultaneously. First, Mr. Washington stepped out, then Raymond, followed by the twins. From the second limousine emerged Ms. Rodriguez, Mr. Patel, and Dr. Winters, all carrying tablets or portfolios, looking every bit the high-powered executive team they were. As they approached the entrance, the twins could see staff inside scrambling. A tall man in an expensive suit hurried to the door to greet them, his face a mask of professional courtesy with an underlying hint of confusion. "Welcome to Precision Motors," he said, holding the door open. "I'm Thomas Wilson, the regional director. How can we assist you today?" Raymond extended his hand. "Raymond Taylor, CEO of Taylor Innovation Partners. I believe we have some business to discuss. Recognition flickered in the director's eyes. Clearly, he had done his research after last night's call. Of course, Mr. Taylor. We've prepared the executive lounge for your visit. Please follow me. As they entered the showroom, the twins immediately spotted the manager from yesterday, Richard Harmon according to his name tag, staring at them with a mixture of confusion and dawning horror as he realized who they were. Actually, Raymond said, loud enough for everyone in the showroom to hear, before we discuss business, my sons would like to look at a few models. They were here yesterday but didn't get the chance to see everything they were interested in. The regional director's smile faltered for just a second. Of course, I'd be happy to show them around personally. That won't be necessary, Raymond replied smoothly. I'm sure your regular sales staff can assist them. My sons don't require special treatment, just the same courtesy you'd show any potential customer. The message was clear. As Jordan and Andre moved toward the display vehicles, every salesperson in the showroom suddenly found themselves very eager to help. Behind them, Raymond turned to the regional director, his voice pleasant but firm. Now, about that business discussion, I think you'll find it quite educational. Jordan and Andre moved through the showroom with newfound confidence. The same space that had felt unwelcoming yesterday now buzzed with an energy they had created simply by walking back in, this time on their own terms. 3 salespeople hovered nearby, each trying to catch their attention with offers of assistance. Thank you. I show you the features of our new GT5000? Asked a young woman who had been arranging brochures the day before. Her name tag read, Diane. She gave them a genuine smile that reached her eyes. Yes, please, Andre replied, returning her smile. I read that it has a new engine management system. As Diane began explaining the car's features, Jordan glanced toward the back of the showroom, where their father and his team were being led into the executive lounge. Through the glass walls, he could see Richard Harmon, yesterday's dismissive manager, standing stiffly as the regional director gestured for everyone to take a seat. Your brother seems distracted, Diane commented, following Jordan's gaze. That's our dad, Jordan explained. He's meeting with your management team. Diane's eyes widened slightly. Your father is Raymond Taylor, of Taylor Innovation? Andre nodded, trying to appear casual, though he couldn't help feeling a spark of pride. I thought he looked familiar, Diane said. There was an article about him in Business Week last month. She lowered her voice. Listen, about yesterday, I wanted to apologize. I saw how Mr. Harmon treated you both, and I should have said something. The twins exchanged surprised glances. It's not your fault, Jordan assured her. Still, she insisted, it wasn't right. This place can be, she searched for the right word, exclusive and not in a good way. A loud voice interrupted their conversation. Diane, the Wilsons need assistance with their paperwork. Richard Harmon stood at the entrance to the executive lounge, pointedly not looking at the twins as he addressed the saleswoman. The Wilsons. Left an hour ago, Mr. Harmon, Diane replied calmly. I'm currently helping these customers. Harmon's jaw tightened visibly. Fine, carry on. He retreated back into the lounge where they could see the regional director giving him a stern look. He seems nervous, Andre observed once Harmon was out of earshot. Diane laughed softly. Wouldn't you be? The regional director never comes in on Sundays, and now we have a billionaire CEO and his entire executive team here. She gestured toward the engine compartment. Anyway, about that management system you asked about. For the next 20 minutes, the twins explored the showroom freely, examining models they had only glimpsed the day before. Occasionally, they would glance toward the executive lounge, where the meeting appeared to be growing more intense. Their father remained calm, his posture relaxed as he spoke, while the regional director's expression shifted from concerned to alarmed to thoughtful. Do you think he's telling them about yesterday? Andre whispered as they moved to examine a luxury SUV. Jordan nodded. Definitely. Look at Harmon's face. Through the glass, they could see the sales manager's complexion had turned an uncomfortable shade of red. He appeared to be trying to explain something, his hands gesturing defensively. Your dad doesn't look angry, Andre observed. He never does, Jordan replied. That's what makes him scary sometimes. He doesn't yell or threaten. He just solves problems. A different salesman approached them, offering details about the SUV's features. As they listened politely, the door to the executive lounge opened, and Mr. Washington, their father's legal counsel, emerged. He walked directly to the twins. Your father would like you to join the meeting, he said, his tone professional, but with a hint of satisfaction that suggested things were going according to plan. The twins followed Mr. Washington across the showroom floor, aware of the curious stares from both customers and staff. As they approached the lounge, the regional director himself opened the door for them. Please come in, gentlemen, he said with a deference that was almost comical compared to their treatment the previous day. The executive lounge was tastefully decorated with leather furniture and automotive art on the walls. A large table dominated the center of the room, around which sat their father and his team on one side, and the dealership's management on the other. Richard Harmon sat stiffly at the far end, his eyes fixed on the tabletop in front of him. Jordan, Andre, please have a seat, their father said, indicating 2 empty chairs beside him. As they sat down, Raymond turned to the regional director. Mr. Wilson, I believe you have something to say to my sons. The regional director cleared his throat. Yes. Jordan, Andre, on behalf of Precision Motors, I want to extend our sincere apologies for your experience yesterday. What happened was unacceptable and does not reflect the standards we claim to uphold. The twins nodded, unsure how to respond to such a formal apology. I understand you're interested in the automotive industry, Wilson continued. Yes, sir, Andre replied. I want to study automotive engineering in college, and I'm interested in the business side, Jordan added. Wilson nodded. Excellent. We offer internship programs for college students. When the time comes, I hope you'll consider applying, regardless of today's unfortunate situation. Their father turned to Richard Harmon, who still hadn't looked up. Mr. Harmon, do you have anything to add? The sales manager finally raised his eyes, his expression a mixture of embarrassment and resignation. I apologize for my behavior, he said, his voice strained. I made assumptions about you both that were unfair and incorrect. There's no excuse for how I treated you. There was a moment of uncomfortable silence before Andre spoke up. Thank you for saying that. Jordan studied the man carefully before adding, everyone makes mistakes. It's what you learn from them that matters. Their father smiled slightly at this response, a flash of pride in his eyes. The regional director turned to Raymond. Mr. Taylor, given the circumstances, I completely understand your decision to cancel the fleet contract. I would make the same choice in your position. The twins looked at their father in surprise. $7 million. Gone because of how they had been treated. Raymond nodded. The contract is indeed off the table. However, he glanced at Dr. Winters, the training specialist. I'm still interested in funding the workplace culture initiative we discussed. Wilson looked confused. You still want to pay for our staff to receive diversity and inclusion training, even though you're taking your business elsewhere? Especially because I'm taking my business elsewhere, Raymond replied. This isn't about punishing your company, Mr. Wilson. It's about improving it. What happened to my sons yesterday happens to people every day, in businesses across this country. Most don't have the resources or platform to address it. He leaned forward, his voice intensifying. My sons were judged by their appearance, not by their character or their potential. That mistake cost your company a significant contract today. But the real cost of such thinking goes far beyond dollars and cents. It erodes trust, diminishes potential, and perpetuates divisions that we should be working to heal. The room fell, silent as his words sank in. Even Mr. Harmon was now looking directly at Raymond, something shifting in his expression. The training program, Raymond continued, will be conducted by Dr. Winters over the next 6 weeks. All staff will participate, from management to sales to maintenance. My foundation will cover the full cost. Dr. Winters opened her portfolio and slid several documents across the table. I've outlined the program here. It's not about pointing fingers or assigning blame. It's about recognizing unconscious biases we all have and learning to move beyond them. The regional director reviewed the materials, nodding slowly. This is generous, Mr. Taylor, more than generous. May I ask why you would invest in us after what happened? Raymond glanced at his sons before answering. Because real change doesn't come from punishment. It comes from education and understanding. And because my sons asked me not to destroy anyone's career over this. They wanted something positive to come from a negative experience. He stood up, signaling the end of the meeting. Now, if you'll excuse us, my sons were particularly interested in seeing the GT5000 up close. Perhaps someone could show them the features while the paperwork for the training program is prepared. Wilson stood quickly. Of course. I'd be happy to show them myself. As they filed out of the executive lounge, Andre whispered to his father, Did you really cancel a $7 million deal because of us? Raymond placed a hand on his son's shoulder. Some things are worth more than money. The respect you're owed is one of them. As the regional director led them back to the showroom floor, Jordan noticed that several employees were watching them with new interest and respect. Richard Harmon had remained in the lounge, deep in conversation with Dr. Winters. This wasn't what I expected, Jordan admitted quietly to his brother as they approached the GT5000. Andre nodded. I thought he'd just make them apologize, maybe get that manager fired. That would have been easier, Jordan agreed. But it wouldn't have changed anything, not really. The regional director was explaining the car's features with enthusiasm, even offering to let them sit inside. As Jordan slid into the driver's seat, adjusting it to his height, he caught sight of his father watching from a distance, a small smile on his face. In that moment, Jordan understood that the most important lesson of the day wasn't about cars or business deals or even standing up for yourself. It was about how to respond when faced with injustice, not with anger that burns bridges, but with dignity that builds new ones. 6 months later, on a crisp autumn afternoon, Jordan and Andre pulled into the parking lot of Precision Motors in a used Honda Civic. Today was special. They had both just gotten their driver's licenses, and their father had promised them each a car as a gift for their academic achievements and community service over the past semester. Nervous? Jordan asked as he turned off the engine. Their grandmother had let them borrow her car for this visit. Andre shook his head, though his bouncing knee suggested otherwise. No. Well, maybe a little. It's been a while. The dealership looked largely the same from the outside, its glass windows reflecting the orange and gold of fall leaves. But as they pushed through the front doors, they immediately noticed differences inside. The most obvious change was a large sign near the entrance that read, "Everyone deserves the road ahead. We're committed to serving all communities." Below, it was a series of photos showing people of various backgrounds with their new vehicles. Well, that's new, Jordan murmured as they stepped into the showroom. A salesperson approached them with a welcoming smile. He was young, probably in his mid-20s, with an enthusiastic energy about him. Welcome to Precision Motors, I'm Kevin. Are you guys looking for anything specific today? Actually, Andre said, we have an appointment with Ms. Chen. Kevin's eyes lit up with recognition. Oh, you must be the Taylor brothers. Lisa mentioned you were coming in today. She's just finishing up with another customer. Can I get you something to drink while you wait? They accepted bottles of water and wandered around the showroom, noting other subtle changes. The brochures now featured diverse models, and there was a community bulletin board showcasing the dealership's involvement with local schools and neighborhood events. Taylor boys, a familiar voice called out. They turned to see Diane, the saleswoman who had been kind to them during their last visit. She was now wearing an assistant manager badge. Great to see you again. Lisa will be with you in just a moment. Congratulations. On the promotion, Jordan said, gesturing to her badge. Diane smiled. Thanks. A lot has changed around here since your dad's visit. All for the better. She lowered her voice slightly. That training program was eye-opening for everyone, even Mr. Harmon. Is he still here? Andre asked, glancing around somewhat nervously. He is, Diane confirmed. But you might not recognize him. The regional director almost fired him after your visit, but your father actually suggested giving him a chance to change. And surprisingly, he did. Before she could elaborate, a woman in a sharp suit approached them. "Jordan and Andre Taylor? I'm Lisa Chen, the new general manager. Your father spoke highly of you both." They shook hands and Lisa led them toward the office area. "Your father called last week to arrange everything. He mentioned you've both been researching your options?" "We have," Jordan confirmed. "We've narrowed it down to a few models that fit Dad's budget and safety requirements." As they passed through the showroom, Andre nudged his brother and nodded toward a corner office. Through the glass walls, they could see Richard Harmon, the manager who had kicked them out 6 months ago, sitting with a young black couple, showing them paperwork with an attentiveness that seemed genuine. "Is that?" Andre whispered. "Yes," Lisa replied, following their gaze. After the training program, Mr. Harmon asked to be moved from general management to financing. He said he wanted to make sure everyone got fair treatment and the best rates possible, regardless of background. She smiled slightly. "He's become one of our most requested finance managers." In Lisa's office, the brothers sat down to discuss their options. She pulled up their file on her computer. "Your father has approved a very generous budget for each of you," she told them. "He mentioned safety features and fuel efficiency were priorities, but otherwise the choice is yours." For the next hour, they discussed various models, their features, pros and cons. Lisa answered their questions patiently, treating them with the same respect she would give any adult customer. There was no hint of condescension or doubt about their knowledge. "I think I've decided," Andre said finally. "The blue hybrid sedan we looked at online. It has all the safety features Dad wanted, great mileage, and it's still fun to drive." Lisa nodded approvingly. "Excellent choice. And you, Jordan?" "The red compact SUV," Jordan decided. "The all-wheel drive will be good for college next year."
"Especially if I go somewhere with snow." "Perfect," Lisa said, making notes in their file. "Both vehicles are in stock. Why don't we go take a look, and if you're satisfied, we can arrange test drives."
As they walked back into the showroom, they passed the community bulletin board again. Jordan paused, noticing a familiar photo. It was their father, shaking hands with the regional director at what appeared to be a charity event. "That was last month," Lisa explained, seeing his interest. "Your father's foundation partnered with us for a scholarship program. We're providing internships for high school students interested in automotive careers, and the foundation is covering college tuition for the participants." Andre studied the photo. "He never mentioned that to us." Lisa smiled. "From what I understand, your father prefers to let his actions speak for themselves." The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur of paperwork, test drives, and excitement. By 5 p.m., the final documents were signed. Their father had arranged everything in advance, including insurance. The cars would be ready for pickup the following weekend after they completed an additional driver safety course that Raymond had insisted upon. As they were preparing to leave, Richard Harmon approached them cautiously. "Jordan, Andre," he said, his voice much gentler than they remembered. "Do you have a moment?" The twins exchanged glances before nodding. "I just wanted to say," he began, then paused, seeming to carefully choose his words. "What happened 6 months ago, the way I treated you was inexcusable. I've thought about it every day since." The brothers remained silent, letting him continue. "The training program your father funded was uncomfortable at first. It forced me to confront things about myself I didn't want to see. But it was necessary." He met their eyes directly. "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that you changed things here, changed me, for the better." After a moment, Jordan extended his hand. "Everyone deserves a second chance." "Mr. Harmon." The man seemed surprised by the gesture but shook Jordan's hand firmly. Andre added, "Sometimes good things come from bad situations." Harmon nodded. "Your father said something similar when he convinced Mr. Wilson not to fire me. He said that firing people doesn't solve problems. It just moves them somewhere else." After saying goodbye to Harmon and Lisa, the twins walked back to their grandmother's Honda. The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows across the parking lot. "Do you think Dad planned all this from the beginning?" Andre asked as they buckled their seatbelts. Even back when we first told him what happened, Jordan thought about it as he started the car. Not the details, maybe, but the outcome? Yeah, I think he saw the potential for something better than just getting revenge. As they pulled out of the dealership, Jordan's phone buzzed with a text from their father. How did it go? Did you find what you wanted? Andre typed a reply. We did. Thanks, Dad. For everything. The response came quickly. Proud of you both. Not for the cars, for how you handled everything these past months. Your mother would be proud too. Jordan smiled as Andre read the message aloud. Their father rarely mentioned their mother who had passed away when they were young. When he did, it was always meaningful. You know, Andre said as they turned onto the main road toward home. I was thinking about applying for that internship program. The one at the dealership? Jordan asked. Andre nodded. Yeah, Ms. Chen mentioned they're looking for people interested in both the engineering and business sides. We could both do it next summer before college. Jordan considered this. Working at the place that kicked us out? That would be quite a story. That's kind of the point, isn't it? Andre replied. The story's not over yet. It's still being written. As they drove home through the gathering dusk, Jordan thought about how differently everything had turned out from what he'd expected 6 months ago. That day, humiliated and angry, he couldn't have imagined returning to Precision Motors, let alone, considering working there, he couldn't have foreseen that their painful experience would lead to positive changes for so many people. Their father had taught them an important lesson, one that went far beyond cars or business or even standing up for yourself. He had shown them that true power wasn't about wealth or status or making others feel small.